everyone, and welcome to this month's Tuesdays with Monday. I'm Haley, and I'm joined by my colleague, Annie Carney, who is a product consultant here at Purple Plum. Today's session is all about something that directly impacts your revenue, but most teams don't actually have a clear handle on it, and that's speed to lead. So today, we're going to show you not just why it matters, but how you can actually track it, improve it, and turn it into a system inside Monday.com. Here's today's agenda. We'll start with the common challenges we see across real estate teams when it comes to lead response. Then Annie will walk us through what she's built inside Monday.com, including a live demo of the Speed to Lead dashboard and more. And then after that, we'll wrap up with the Q&A session and a few key takeaways that you can walk away with today. So here's a common challenge that we see here at Purple Plum and that we help customers with. Leads are coming in, but what happens next exactly? For most teams, follow-up is all over the place, and some people on your team might respond right away, while others take a few hours, and sometimes leads just slip through the cracks entirely. So at the same time, leadership is asking you for updates, and marketing is generating new leads, and there's not really a clear view into what actually is happening with your leads. So instead of guessing, we asked, what could you actually do if you could see this? That's exactly what Annie's been building inside of Monday.com. I'll pass it over to Annie and she can walk us through what she's been building.
Great. Thanks, Haley. So what we were really trying to solve here is that most teams have the data. They have leads coming in, activity happening, but it's hard to actually turn that into something actionable. You end up with Monday boards with the data, but you still have to interpret what's going on and who's really following up. So the goal here was to take that same data and turn it into something you can actually interact with and use to drive behavior. So instead of just building another dashboard, we used Vibe inside Monday to create something more dynamic and custom. At a high level, Vibe lets you build interactive AI-powered experiences directly on top of your Monday data. So instead of just looking at information, you can actually engage with it in a way that's tailored to how your team works. What I'm going to show you is a speed to lead dashboard focused on how quickly teams respond to new leads, which is something that directly impacts performance across real estate, sales, and marketing. Let's walk through this together inside Monday.com. Hey, everyone. I wanted to walk through a quick example of how we're using Vibe inside Monday to turn raw data into something that's actually actionable. So at a high level, Vibe's essentially a way to create fully interactive AI-powered apps directly on top of your Monday data. So instead of just looking at boards and dashboards, you can build experiences that are tailored to how your team actually works. What I'm going to show you is a speed to lead dashboard, which is focused on how quickly teams respond to new leads. So this is something that's incredibly important across sales, real estate, lending, really any team where response time directly impacts revenue. And what's really powerful here is this didn't start as a fully built app. It started from a structured prompt, and then we refined it into what you're about to see. All right, so before we get into the dashboard itself, I will just quickly show where this data is coming from. At the core, this is powered by a leads board where we're capturing when a lead is created and when the first interaction happens. From there, we calculate speed to lead using this AI column to create the difference between those two timestamps. So everything you're seeing here is based on actual activity data and not manually entered metrics. Okay, so starting at the top, this dashboard is focused on the full previous month. So everything you're seeing is grounded in a consistent time frame. Right here, we have the competition rules, which set the context. So the goal is to respond to new leads in under 5 minutes. Champion is the person with the lowest average response time. Then we move into the KPI layer, which gives you an immediate snapshot of who's winning, how the team's performing overall, what the fastest response was, and total volume. The centerpiece here is the champions section. So instead of just showing numbers, we're highlighting the top performer, their average response time, fastest response, and total leads handled. So it makes it really clear who's setting the standard. In this case, it's Sandra D. Below that is the leaderboard, which gives you a broader view of the entire team. You can quickly see how everyone stacks up, not just in terms of averages, but also volume and performance patterns. Then as we move down, this is where it gets a bit more analytical. So we're comparing top performers side by side, and then breaking things down by lead source so you can actually see where response times are stronger or weaker. And then here we're looking at the fastest individual responses, which helps define what great looks like at a very granular level. You could see Sandra is great. And finally, This AI Insights section pulls everything together, highlighting what's working, where the gaps are, and what actions the team can take. What really makes this actionable isn't just the visibility, it's the ability to actually drill into the data. So for example, if I click into a specific team member, we're actually going to click on the champion card here. Now I can see their full performance breakdown: average response time, total leads handled, fastest response, and slowest response. It even shows a list of the recent leads, including source and response time for each of those leads. So instead of just seeing where someone ranks, you can actually understand what's driving their performance. The best part about all of this is how it was built. This didn't start as a fully designed app. It started with a structured prompt that we defined to control the layout, logic, and the way it interacts. So Vibe takes the structure, generates the initial application based on what we defined, and then from there, we refine the experience, adjusting layout, tightening the metrics, shaping it into what you see right here. So the speed comes from generating the foundation through that structured prompt, but the value comes from how it's refined into something teams can actually use.
Thank you, Annie. That was such a great walkthrough. So now let's go over a few common questions we've received about the Speed to Lead dashboard. Okay, so the first one, how does the Speed to Lead dashboard actually track response time? Can you give us some behind the scenes insights on how it works and functions?
Yeah, absolutely. So because this is really the foundation of everything that you're seeing here is what's happening behind the scenes. So at a high level, we're tracking the time between when a lead's created and when that first interaction happens, whether it's a call, email, some other form of outreach. Inside Monday, we're capturing those timestamps directly in the leads board. So when a lead comes in, that creation time is logged automatically. Then we're identifying that first interaction point. So that's where some of the logic comes in. We're using AI columns and formulas that helps calculate the difference between those 2 points automatically. And that gives us a consistent response time across the entire team. What's really important here is that it's not relying on someone manually saying, hey, I followed up. It's actually tied to activity and timestamps, which makes it much more reliable. So once that data is structured, everything you saw on the dashboard, the champion, the leaderboard, the trends, all of those update automatically in real time. So it's a really strong example of taking something that's usually pretty subjective and turning it into something objective and measurable.
Okay, so our next question, can the Speed to Lead dashboard work with existing lead sources? Say maybe Zillow, websites, or a lead gen campaign?
Yes. And honestly, that's one of the most important parts of making something like this successful. So the short answer is yes. As long as your leads are flowing into Monday in some way, we can work with it. So whether your leads are coming from your website, paid ads, Zillow, CRM tools, even manual entry, the goal is to centralize that into a single place, typically a leads board. So once everything is flowing into that board, we can start applying the same logic across all leads, regardless of where they come from. And what's actually really powerful is that we can also segment performance by source. So not only are you seeing how fast your team is responding overall, but you can start to understand things like, are we slower to respond to Zillow leads versus website leads? That might be an issue with leads parsing improperly. It really gives you a high level overview of where you need to take action. So that starts to connect your marketing efforts with your operations, which is where things get really interesting. So the system is flexible. The key is just making sure we have a clean intake point where all that data can live.
Okay, thank you so much, Annie. That's really good to know, especially for real estate teams that have a lot of marketing activities going on. So for our next question, what if our team isn't consistent with logging activity into Monday?
That's actually one of the biggest challenges teams run into. And there are really two ways to approach it. One is automation, where you connect tools like your phone system or messaging platform so activity can be captured automatically. The second is creating lightweight structure and visibility, things like reminders, simple status updates, or even required fields. So logging activity becomes part of the workflow, not an extra step. And what we found is once performance becomes visible, teams naturally become more consistent because they can see the impact.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Annie. And for our next question, how customizable is the Speed to Lead dashboard for different team structures with different roles that might be looking at the dashboard for insights for their specific job duties?
So this is where Monday really shines and where we spend a lot of time in the discovery process. Every team's a little bit different. You might have agents, loan officers, inside sales reps. You have different territories, different lead types. So the system needs to reflect how your team actually operates. What we're showing today is just one version of a speed to lead dashboard, but everything behind is customizable. We can adjust response time, how that's defined, what counts as a first interaction, how performance is measured, how teams are grouped, and what metrics matter most to leadership. So even the dashboard itself, what you're surfacing, how it's visualized, what drill downs are available, that can all be tailored. So we're not trying to force teams into a rigid template. Instead, we use something like this as a starting point and then shape it around your specific workflows, goals, and team structure. And that's really where the value comes in. When the system actually reflects how your business runs, adoption becomes much easier.
Thank you. That's amazing. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so our last and final question, which is a big one. Does the speed to lead dashboard replace the CRM system?
No, it enhances your CRM by adding visibility, accountability, performance tracking on top of your existing lead flow. So we aren't trying to get you to learn an entirely new system to replace all of your existing tools. This is really designed to just complement what you currently have to enhance those workflows and tracking processes.
Amazing. Well, this is an excellent tool. I'm excited to share this with people. So, okay, Annie, thank you so much for your time. And thank you guys for joining us today. That brings us to the end of today's Tuesdays with Monday webinar. And if you'd like to rewatch this session or explore other webinars that we have, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Find us at Purple Plum Consulting on YouTube, or you can visit our website. Visit purpleplumtech.com/events, where you can watch our past webinars on demand. And we'll be back soon with a new episode, and we hope that you join us. If you would like to reach out to Purple Plum for the Speed to Lead dashboard to inquire and to learn more, feel free to reach out to Mark on the screen here. Thank you again for joining us today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.